Let my ex visit the kids, return to find my partner's trust and ring gone. Hello, Reddit. My name is Haley. I'm 34 years old, a mother of 2 amazing kids, and until recently, I thought my life was finally on track. For years, I struggled to rebuild myself after my ex-husband, Philip, left us, but then I met Ethan. He changed everything. He made me believe in love again, in family again, and for the first time in a long time, I felt safe. I felt like things were going to be okay. My kids, Jason, who's 10, and Mia, who's 8, are my entire world. And when Philip walked out, it felt like the world shattered around me. He wasn't just my husband, he was their dad, and he left without so much as a goodbye. One day he was there, part of our family, and the next, he was gone. No explanations, no closure. He just disappeared. At first, I held out hope that he'd come back. I made excuses for him to the kids, told them he was busy with work or that he'd call soon. But as the weeks turned into months and then years, I had to face the truth. Philip wasn't coming back, and I was on my own. Those years were some of the hardest of my life. I worked long hours at a job I hated, juggling daycare schedules, homework, and everything else that came with being a single mom. There were days when I didn't think I'd make it, when I'd collapse into bed at the end of the night and cry until I fell asleep. I felt like I was failing my kids, like I wasn't enough for them, and honestly, I wasn't sure I'd ever be enough. Then Ethan came into our lives. It feels like a cliche to say he was my knight in shining armor, but that's exactly what he was. We met through mutual friends at a small get-together, and from the moment we started talking, I knew there was something special about him. He wasn't like anyone I'd ever met. He was calm, steady, and kind in a way that felt genuine. He wasn't flashy or overly confident. He was just real. And after everything I'd been through with Philip, real was exactly what I needed. Ethan and I started dating, and it didn't take long for him to meet Jason and Mia. I was nervous about introducing him to them because I'd been so protective of my kids, especially after what Philip did, but Ethan made it so easy. He didn't try to force himself into their lives or replace their dad. He just showed up for them, day after day, in all the little ways that mattered. Helping Jason with his science projects, teaching Mia to ride her bike, sitting with both of them at the dinner table, and actually listening when they talked about their day. The kids adored him, and I couldn't blame them. I adored him too. Over time, Ethan became more than just my boyfriend. He became part of our family. He was there for every birthday, every school play, every scraped knee, and late-night stomachache. He was my rock, the one I leaned on when life felt overwhelming. He made me believe in the possibility of a happy ending, something I thought I'd lost forever when Philip left. A year ago, Ethan proposed. He took us all to the park for a picnic, Jason and Mia and I, and while we were sitting on the blanket, he pulled out a small box. He didn't just ask me to marry him. He asked the kids if he could be part of their lives forever. Jason nodded so hard I thought his head might fall off, and Mia threw her arms around his neck, screaming, "Yes!" before I could even answer. It was the happiest day of my life. I was finally getting the family I'd always dreamed of, the one I thought had been taken from me. Ethan wasn't just a partner. He was my second chance. He gave me hope, stability, and love. He gave my kids a father figure when theirs had abandoned them, and I swore to myself that I would never, ever do anything to jeopardize what we had. But now, as I sit here typing this, I realize how fragile that happiness was. I thought I'd left my past behind me, but it came rushing back into my life, bringing chaos with it. And somehow, I let it destroy everything Ethan and I built together. I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself for what I've done, and I don't know if Ethan ever will either. It all started a few weeks ago when Philip showed up out of nowhere. I hadn't heard from him in years. No phone calls, no emails, not even a birthday card for Jason or Mia. And then, out of the blue, there he was, standing on my porch with that same cocky smile he used to have, like he hadn't just disappeared from our lives without a second thought. I didn't know what to say at first. My stomach churned as I stared at him, trying to process the moment. Part of me wanted to slam the door in his face, to tell him he didn't get to walk back into our lives like nothing had happened. But another part of me, a smaller, quieter part, felt something else. Curiosity, maybe? Or confusion? I couldn't quite place it, but I found myself standing there, listening as he explained why he'd come. He said he wanted to reconnect with the kids, He told me he'd been going through some personal things when he left, and that he wasn't in the right place to be a father back then. But now he claimed he'd changed. He was ready to step up and be there for Jason and Mia. He didn't apologize for leaving, not really, but he said enough to make me hesitate. And when he asked if he could see them, I froze. I didn't say yes right away. I told him I needed to think about it, and after he left, I called Ethan. I explained the situation, hoping he'd help me sort through my emotions, but the moment I mentioned Philip's name, I could hear the tension in his voice. Ethan didn't like the idea at all. He said Philip had his chance and blew it, and letting him back into the kids' lives would only hurt them. He walked out on them, Haley, Ethan said. What's to stop him from doing it again? He wasn't wrong, but there was a part of me that felt torn. Jason and Mia deserved to know their dad, didn't they? Even if Philip had made mistakes in the past, wasn't it worth giving him a chance to make things right? I tried to explain this to Ethan, but I could tell he wasn't convinced. Still, he didn't push the issue. It's your decision, he said finally, his voice tight. But be careful, Haley. Ethan left for a work trip the following week, and I told myself I wouldn't make any decisions until he got back. But when Philip called again, asking if he could stop by for just a little while, I caved. I told myself it was harmless, just a visit, just for the kids. What could go wrong? The first visit went smoother than I expected. Jason and Mia were thrilled to see their dad, and for a moment, I almost believed Philip had changed. He was attentive, patient, even playful, helping Jason build a model car and letting Mia braid his hair while they laughed like they'd known each other all along. I stayed in the background, watching them interact, trying to figure out how I felt. At first, I told myself I was just happy for the kids. They deserved this, didn't they? A chance to bond with their father, to create memories they could carry with them. But as the afternoon went on, I started to feel conflicted. Watching Philip with the kids stirred something in me, something I hadn't felt in a long time. He was so natural with them, so at ease, and it reminded me of the man I fell in love with all those years ago. It was like seeing a ghost from my past, a version of Philip I thought was gone forever. For a split second, I wondered if maybe things could have been different. If he'd been like this back then, would we have made it? Would we still be a family? The thoughts were fleeting, but they were there, and they left me feeling unsteady. I hated myself for even thinking about it. Ethan had been the one who stepped up when Philip left. Ethan had been there for every scraped knee, every late-night cry, every school event. He was the man who loved me and my kids unconditionally, and here I was, letting myself feel nostalgic for a man who abandoned us. But it was hard to shake the memories, hard to ignore the little voice in my head whispering that Philip was different now, that maybe he deserved another chance. When Philip asked if he could come by again, I hesitated. I knew Ethan wouldn't like it, but he was still out of town, and I told myself it was just one more visit. The kids were happy, and isn't that what mattered most? So I said yes, ignoring the pit in my stomach that told me I was walking a dangerous line. Looking back now, I can see how naive I was. I thought I could handle it, thought I could keep my emotions in check, but I underestimated how much Philip's presence would stir up, how easy it would be to fall back into old patterns. And I had no idea just how much it would cost me. The day of Philip's second visit started out innocently enough. The kids were excited to see him again, and for a little while it felt like everything was under control. I had told myself this time would be no different than the last, just a quick visit, nothing more. I even had everything planned out. We'd stay outside in the yard where the kids could run around, and I'd keep my distance, staying focused on them and not on Philip. But as always, things didn't go as planned. When Philip arrived, he greeted Jason and Mia with the same charm as before, scooping them up into a playful hug that had them giggling within seconds. Watching him like that, so natural, so easy with them, it tugged at something in me that I couldn't explain. It was like seeing glimpses of the man I used to love, the man I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. But I shook the thought away, reminding myself that this was for the kids, not for me. As they played, Philip struck up a conversation with me, asking how things had been since he left. His tone was light, casual, but I could feel the weight behind his words. There was something in the way he looked at me, something familiar and dangerous. I tried to keep things brief, answering his questions without giving too much away, but he had a way of pulling me in, making me feel like I was back in the past when things between us were good. It started raining about an hour into the visit. A light drizzle at first that quickly turned into a downpour. The kids were laughing and running in the rain, but I called them inside before they got completely soaked. Philip followed us in, and I hesitated for a moment before closing the door behind him. I told myself it was just to let him dry off, that he'd leave soon, but deep down, I think I knew better. The kids ran upstairs to change into dry clothes, leaving me alone with Philip in the living room. The air between us felt heavy, charged with something I didn't want to name. I offered him a towel and a cup of coffee, trying to keep things normal, but when our hands brushed as I handed him the cup, I felt a jolt that sent my heart racing. I should have stepped away. I should have told him it was time to leave. But instead, I stayed. We talked, the conversation drifting from the kids to our past, and before I knew it, the lines started to blur. He said he missed me, that he missed us, and I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to scream at him, to remind him that he was the one who walked away, but another part of me, the part that remembered the good times, couldn't let go of the way he was looking at me. Then it happened. It was quick, a moment of weakness that I'll regret for the rest of my life. 1 minute we were talking, and the next, he was kissing me, and I let him. I didn't pull away, didn't stop him, even though every rational part of me was screaming that this was wrong. It wasn't until I heard the kids laughing upstairs that reality came crashing back. I pushed him away, my heart pounding in my chest. "This was a mistake," I said, my voice shaking. "You need to leave." Philip looked at me, a mixture of confusion and something else, maybe regret flashing across his face. He didn't argue, didn't try to push it further. He just nodded and left, leaving me standing there in the middle of the living room, trembling with shame. I swore to myself it would never happen again, that I'd put an end to this before it spiraled any further, but the damage was already done. But it had happened again, and I allowed it stupidly. Philip had come by that afternoon, and I was overwhelmed with emotions, and when he tried to kiss me this time, I hadn't tried to stop it or even push him away. That afternoon, the kids had decided to spend it with their friend, and I had allowed them so I could also rest and perhaps process my feelings. I shouldn't have allowed him in when he came by. I should have told him the kids weren't around and slammed the door shut. I shouldn't have invited him for a cup of coffee, but I did. And when he had entered, instead of reaching for the cup of coffee I was holding to him, he reached for my hand and held it, our eyes clashing, and I saw the same passion in his eyes as he used to have back then. I didn't hesitate when he removed the cup from my hand and set it on the table and then pulled me to himself and started to kiss me like he had every right to. I didn't stop him when he pulled off my skimpy top and shorts that barely covered my already erected nipples before. I didn't hesitate when he pressed me against my couch and slid into me. I just wanted to have him. And I did, and right after he was very much satisfied, he just smiled smugly and adjusted his trousers. He didn't even remove his clothes to have sex with me. He just had to look at me and make me feel like he cared, and I was already allowing to remove every piece of my clothes. I felt ashamed of myself and disgusted by what I had done. I didn't know what to do, and I felt more guilty when I thought of how I just betrayed Ethan. Later that evening, Ethan came home earlier than expected. He was supposed to be gone for another 2 days, but there he was, walking through the door with his suitcase in hand. My stomach dropped the moment I saw him. His expression was calm, but there was something off about his demeanor, something I couldn't quite place. He kissed me on the cheek, asked how the kids were, and went upstairs to unpack. It was normal, too normal, and it made my anxiety spike. I spent the rest of the evening trying to act like everything was fine, but Ethan was quiet, distant. He didn't say much during dinner, and when the kids went to bed, he stayed in the kitchen instead of coming to the living room like he usually did. I told myself he was just tired from his trip, that I was imagining things, but the unease in my chest wouldn't go away. It wasn't until I went to bed that I saw it. His engagement ring sitting on the nightstand and a folded piece of paper next to it. My hands were shaking as I picked it up, dread pooling in my stomach. I unfolded the paper, and as I read the words, my worst fears were confirmed. Ethan knew. Somehow, he knew. He didn't say how, whether it was something I said, something he saw, or just a gut feeling, but the note was clear. He said he couldn't stay with someone he couldn't trust, someone who would betray him in such a way. He didn't yell or accuse or blame. His words were calm, measured, but they cut deeper than any angry outburst ever could. By the time I finished reading, my hands were trembling, and I could feel the tears streaming down my face. I wanted to run downstairs to beg him to stay, but when I got to the kitchen, he was already gone. The house was quiet, eerily so, and I realized I was alone. Ethan had left, and I didn't know if he was ever coming back. I don't even know where to start. I've been sitting here for hours, trying to find the right words, but nothing I write feels like enough to explain what I've done. I've betrayed the one person who stood by me when I had nothing, the man who gave me a second chance at happiness, at love, at family. And now, because of my own stupidity, I've ruined it all. Ethan was my rock. He came into my life when I was broken, when Philip had left me to pick up the pieces on my own. He didn't just love me, he also loved my kids. He became their father in every way that mattered, stepping into a role that Philip abandoned without hesitation. And yet somehow I managed to throw all of that away. I don't even know why I let it happen. Was it nostalgia? Some twisted sense of curiosity about what might have been? I keep replaying that moment in my mind, trying to figure out how I let it go so far. Philip has always had this pull over me, even after everything he put me through, and for some stupid reason, I let myself fall for it. I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, he'd changed, but he hasn't. And now I'm left here, alone, picking up the pieces of my life all over again. Ethan was the best thing that ever happened to me. He didn't just take care of me and the kids, he believed in me. He made me feel like I was worth something, like I deserved the life we were building together. And now, because of one selfish, reckless decision, I've lost him. He's gone, and I don't know if he's ever coming back. I keep thinking about the look on his face when he came home that night. He didn't say anything, but I could tell he knew something was wrong. And then later, when I found his ring and that note, I've never felt pain like that before. It was like my whole world came crashing down in an instant, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. I wanted to run after him, to beg him to forgive me, but I was too scared. What could I even say? How do you apologize for something like this? How do you make up for the kind of betrayal that cuts this deep? The kids keep asking where Ethan is, and I don't know what to tell them. I've been lying, saying he's busy with work, but I can see the confusion in their eyes. They love him so much, and I can't stand the thought of them losing him because of me. Jason keeps asking when Ethan's coming back to help him with his project, and Mia cries every night because she misses their bedtime stories. It's like I've let them down all over again, and the guilt is unbearable. I've tried reaching out to Ethan. I've called him, texted him, even emailed him, but he hasn't responded. I don't blame him. If I were in his shoes, I wouldn't want to talk to me either, but it's killing me not to hear from him, not to know if he's okay or if there's any hope of fixing this. I don't even know where he's staying. I just know he's gone, and it feels like a part of me is missing. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should keep trying to reach out to him or if I should just let him go. Does he even want to hear from me? Or am I just making things worse by trying to fix something that can't be fixed? I've never felt this lost before, this helpless. I thought I was doing the right thing by letting Philip see the kids, but now I see how naive I was. I let my guard down, and now I'm paying the price. Reddits, I need your advice. Is there any way to come back from this? Is there any chance that Ethan will forgive me? Or have I destroyed everything for good? I don't want to give up on him, on us, but I don't know if that's even an option anymore. Should I keep fighting for our relationship, or is it time to accept that I've lost him forever? Please, if anyone has been through something like this, tell me what to do. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I can't stop hoping that maybe, just maybe, there's still a chance to make things right. I love Ethan more than I can put into words, and the thought of losing him forever is more than I can bear. What should I do? How do I fix this? Or is it already too late? Update. Hello, Reddits. I wish I could say things have gotten better, but they haven't. If anything, they've only gotten worse. Ethan has officially moved out. He didn't leave much behind, just a few clothes he didn't need and some of his tools in the garage. The rest is gone, along with him. It's like he erased himself from our lives in one swift move. I didn't even see him pack. He must have done it when I was at work, or maybe he waited until I took the kids out. Either way, it feels like a punch to the gut every time I walk through the house and see the empty spaces where his things used to be. I've tried reaching out to him. I've called him every day, sometimes multiple times, but he doesn't answer. I've sent texts apologizing, begging him to talk to me, telling him I'll do anything to fix this, but every message goes unanswered. His silence is louder than any words he could say, and it's killing me. I don't know where he's staying. I don't even know if he's okay. All I know is that he's gone, and it feels like my whole world is falling apart. The hardest part has been explaining it to the kids. Jason and Mia keep asking where Ethan is, and I don't know what to tell them. At first, I said he was busy with work, but that excuse is starting to wear thin. Jason's old enough to know when something's off, and I can see it in the way he looks at me, like he's starting to piece things together. Mia doesn't understand as much, but she cries every night, asking when Ethan's coming back. She misses their bedtime stories and the silly voices he used to do, and to be honest, I do too. I'm terrified they'll blame me for this. Deep down, I know they should. Ethan was the only stable father figure they've ever had, and now he's gone because of me. Because I couldn't keep my priorities straight, because I let my past creep back in and destroy everything we built. Every time Jason asks why Ethan isn't here, I feel like I'm letting him down all over again. And Mia's tears? They're like daggers straight to my heart. I can't bear the thought of them losing Ethan because of my mistakes, but I don't know how to fix it. In my desperation, I reached out to Philip. I thought maybe he could help. Maybe he'd have some advice about how to explain this to the kids. And it was even because of him I ended up losing the most important relationship in my life. So for some weird reason, I reached out to him. Maybe it was to feel less guilty. We committed the mistake together, right? But that turned out to be another mistake. When I called him, he was dismissive, almost annoyed that I'd even reached out. He said he didn't want to be involved in my mess, and that I needed to figure things out on my own. He wasn't rude exactly, but his tone made it clear he wanted nothing to do with the fallout. I shouldn't have been surprised. Philip has always been good at walking away from responsibility, but a part of me hoped that maybe, just maybe, he'd step up this time. Not for me, but for Jason and Mia. They're his kids too, after all. But no. He brushed me off like I was a stranger, and now I'm left feeling even more alone than before. I've never felt so lost. The house feels empty without Ethan here, like all the warmth and love he brought is gone. I keep thinking about all the little things I took for granted. Like the way he'd make coffee for me in the mornings, the way he'd sit with the kids and help them with their homework, the way he'd hold me when I had a bad day. I threw all of that away for nothing. Philip doesn't care about me. He doesn't care about the kids. And now I've pushed away the one person who did. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm drowning, and every time I try to reach for something to hold on to, it slips through my fingers. I keep hoping Ethan will come back, that he'll at least let me explain, but his silence makes it clear he's done. I don't blame him. I deserve this. But the kids, they don't. They deserve better than this. They deserve better than me. I just don't know how to make it right. It's been about 2 weeks since Ethan left, and the silence has been unbearable. Every day feels longer than the last, and the more time that passes, the more hopeless I feel. I've tried everything to reach him, but he hasn't responded to a single call or text. I thought I could handle not knowing, but it's driving me crazy. I keep replaying everything in my mind, wondering if there's something else I could have said or done to stop him from walking out that door. Yesterday, I finally broke down and called one of our mutual friends, Lauren. I didn't want to drag anyone else into this mess, but I was desperate for any kind of information. I asked her if she'd heard from Ethan, or if she knew where he was staying. At first, she hesitated. I could tell she didn't want to get involved, but eventually she admitted that she had spoken to him. Lauren told me Ethan's staying with his sister Jenna. My stomach twisted when she said it, because Jenna and I have never been close. She's always been protective of Ethan, and I know she's never fully trusted me. I can only imagine what she's saying to him now, how she must be telling him he's better off without me. And the worst part? She's right. Lauren tried to be kind about it, but I could hear the hesitation in her voice when she told me more. Ethan has been confiding in Jenna, pouring his heart out to her about everything that's happened. According to Lauren, he's struggling to come to terms with what I did, but he's also starting to feel like there's no way back from this. She said he's considering calling off the engagement permanently. When I heard those words, it felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. I knew things were bad, but hearing it said out loud made it so much more real. The idea that Ethan might never come back, that he might take off his ring and end everything we've built together, it's too much to bear. I started crying on the phone, and Lauren tried to comfort me, but nothing she said could take away the pain. The worst part is knowing that Jenna is probably encouraging him to make that decision. I don't blame her, though. She's only looking out for her brother, and after what I did, she has every reason to think I'm not good enough for him. But it hurts, knowing that someone else might be helping him decide to walk away for good. Lauren also mentioned that Ethan's been talking about the kids, about how much he misses them, and how hard it's been to stay away. That broke me all over again. He loves Jason and Mia like they're his own, and now they've lost him because of me. I keep wondering if he'll come back for them, even if he doesn't come back for me. I don't know if I could handle that, though. Seeing him with the kids, but knowing I've lost him forever, it feels like it would break me even more. After I hung up with Lauren, I sat on the couch for hours, staring at the wall and trying to process everything. I couldn't stop thinking about the look on Ethan's face the last time I saw him. He wasn't angry, he was hurt. Deeply, deeply hurt. And that's what makes all of this so much worse. If he had yelled at me, if he had stormed out in a rage, maybe it would have been easier to accept. But he didn't. He left quietly, calmly, and now it feels like he's slipping further and further away, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. I don't know if he'll actually go through with ending the engagement. Part of me wants to believe that he's just saying it out of anger or hurt, that he'll take some time to think and realize we're worth fighting for. But the other part of me knows that might just be wishful thinking. He's with Jenna now, and she's probably telling him exactly what he needs to hear to make the break permanent. I feel like I'm unraveling, like every piece of me is coming apart at the seams. I've tried to stay strong for the kids, but it's getting harder every day. Jason and Mia keep asking about Ethan, and I keep lying, telling them he'll be back soon, that he just needs a little time. But what if that's not true? What if he never comes back? What if I've lost him forever? I don't even know what to do anymore. I feel like I'm holding onto a thread that's already frayed, and it's just a matter of time before it snaps. If Ethan decides to end things for good, I don't know how I'll recover. I don't know how to face the kids, how to explain that the one person who loved us unconditionally is gone because of me. All I can do now is wait and hope. Hope that he'll find it in his heart to forgive me. Hope that he'll give me a chance to make things right. But the more time that passes, the more that hope feels like it's slipping away. And I don't know how much longer I can hold on. Update. Hi, Reddits. This is my last post here. It's been a few months since my last update, and I wish I could say things have gotten better. But they haven't. It feels more horrible day by day, and every day now is a struggle. I feel like I'm still stuck, replaying everything in my mind, wondering how I let things go so wrong. I've debated whether to even write this update, but I feel like I owe it to myself to put it all out there. I found out recently that Ethan has moved to another city. I didn't hear from him. Of course, he hasn't responded to any of my messages since he left. I saw it on social media. It started with a tagged photo from one of his friends, a group shot of people at a bar. Ethan was in the middle, smiling, looking relaxed and happy in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. At first, I thought it was just a night out, but then I noticed the caption, "Celebrating Ethan's new job and new beginnings." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I hadn't realized how much I was holding on to the hope that he'd come back, that we'd figure things out and rebuild what we had. But seeing that photo made it clear that he's moving on. He's starting a new life without me, and I'm not part of it anymore. I couldn't stop myself from scrolling through his profile. It was like picking at a scab, knowing it would hurt, but not being able to leave it alone. There were more pictures of Ethan at work with his new colleagues, Ethan hiking with friends, Ethan at a party. In every single one, he looked happy, truly happy. It's like he's thriving now that he's away from me, and as much as it hurts to admit, I can't blame him. One picture in particular stuck with me. It was from a company event, and there was a woman standing next to him, her arm casually draped around his shoulders. She was beautiful, confident, and they looked comfortable together. There was no caption, nothing to indicate if they're involved or just friends, but it didn't matter. The image alone was enough to send me spiraling. I don't even know why it affected me so much. It's not like I have any right to feel jealous or hurt. I'm the one who destroyed our relationship. I'm the one who pushed him away. But seeing him with someone else, even if it's just a possibility, made everything feel so final. It's like he's found a new chapter, a new beginning, and I'm still stuck in the ruins of what we had. Meanwhile, my life feels like it's standing still. I'm trying to focus on the kids, trying to be the mom they need me to be, but it's hard. Every day is a reminder of what I've lost, of what I threw away. Jason and Mia still ask about Ethan sometimes, though not as often as they used to. I think they're starting to understand that he's not coming back, even if they don't say it out loud. It breaks my heart every time I see the disappointment in their eyes when I don't have an answer for them. I've been doing my best to rebuild, for their sake. I started therapy a few weeks ago, trying to work through the guilt and regret that have been eating me alive. It's helping, I think, but it's slow. Some days I feel like I'm making progress, like I'm finally starting to forgive myself, but other days I feel like I'm drowning all over again, suffocated by the weight of what I've done. The hardest part is accepting that Ethan isn't coming back. For so long, I clung to the hope that we could fix things, that he'd see how sorry I am and give me another chance. But now I see that's not going to happen. He's moved on, and I have to find a way to do the same. I don't know how to forgive myself. I don't know if I even deserve forgiveness. But I do know that I can't keep living like this. I can't keep looking at the past and wishing things were different. I have 2 kids who need me, who rely on me, and I can't let them down again. I have to find a way to move forward, even if it feels impossible right now. Reddits, I need your advice. How do you forgive yourself when you've destroyed the best thing that ever happened to you? How do you move on when the person you love is thriving without you? I guess you don't. You just live with the consequences of your action, however severe they might be. I know I'll never have Ethan back. And trying to stay strong for my kids and their future is so hard because I'm breaking apart piece by piece on the inside, and I have absolutely no one to get me out. I feel like I'll never get there, and I don't know what to do. Goodbye, guys.